Hello dear student, welcome to another class. Today we are talking about present perfect. It's our 8th grammar class. I'm really excited about it. Let's get started. Don't forget to open your PDF, okay? Essential, not essential, intermediate grammar and use. We are on unit, I may have forgotten what unit we are in. We are in unit 6. No, unit 7. Yes, we are starting unit 7 of intermediate grammar in use today. I'm going to do exactly the way I did the last video. I'm going to explain the theory about the verb tense. We will see some very simple sentences as examples, and then I will open the PDF and we will work on it together. Okay, that's the idea. And of course, do the activities. You have got to practice your English. Do not just watch me. You have got to watch me and do the activities. You know that. So let's get started. What is present perfect? It's a verb tense. It's a very useful verb tense. Present perfect. People start hating it, but once you learn it for good, when you learn it entirely and thoroughly, you will see that it will help you a lot in many situations. Basically, when we are talking about the present and the past, it's a combination of these two basic ideas of verb tenses that we've got. So it's a mixture of present plus past. And it's quite to understand because in Portuguese we do not have a specific verb tense for this. We use other mechanisms. For example, we use two verbs together and things like this. But in English we've got a special verb tense called present perfect. Okay, for now, what I want you to understand by present perfect is that perfect will be used here as before. Because every action that the present perfect brings is an action that describes a moment before the present. It's related to the present, but is before now. So look at this timeline I've got over here. So this is us, this is me, and we are of course in the present. This is past, this is future. You remember when we studied past simple? And when we studied past simple, we learned that this is something that happened, that started, that happened, and that it's over. And we also learned that this has no connection with the present. Remember, for example, you could say, I traveled to Japan last year. You see, this is past simple. It's another way to talk about past. And you have to understand right from the beginning of this lesson that these two verb tenses, they are kind of similar. They are kind of connected in the idea of something that happened before the present. But this over here indicates only one point in time. I traveled to Japan last year. When we are describing present perfect, my dear student, we are not focused on any idea of time. We don't want to talk about when an action happened. Actually, this is something that will never happen. We never say when with present perfect. With past simple, it's okay. But let's transform this. If this is not present perfect, this is past simple, teacher, what is present perfect? I'll show you. Present perfect is a verb tense that you can use to describe whatever happened before now with some rules. First condition, we never say when the action happened. You know why? Because this is not the function of present perfect. If you want to talk about when something happened, you have to use past simple. So for that, use past simple. If you want to talk about specific moment in the past, you've got to use past simple. Okay? Not present perfect. Good, so that's the first condition. And then everything that happened to us before now, we can use present perfect to talk about it. For example, I have eaten a lot. I have eaten a lot. Eu comi muito. I have eaten a lot. Teacher, but what is the difference between I have eaten a lot and I ate a lot? I ate is something finished. And you will learn now that present perfect is the best option for one, first usage. It is the best option. This is the first condition. Okay? First condition that we've got with present perfect is that we never say when the action happened. But the first rule for using is an action that happened before now, and still affects my present. Present. Remember what I told you? When we use past simple, for example, I ate a lot, we are not focusing on any connection with the present. Remember what I told you? There isn't a connection. But if you want to say that now, for example, you are sick, I feel sick. You feel sick now because you have eaten a lot. You see that this past, this action that happened before now, it happened before my present, is directly affecting my present. If you want to talk about a situation like this, in which you did something in the past, but your present is being affected, my dear student, you've got to use present perfect. So let me draw another timeline over here. Something happened in the past, but it's strongly affecting my present. If this is the case, we've got to use present perfect. Okay? And I like to point out the difference when you say that I lost my wallet and I've lost my wallet. That's the best example for you to understand the difference between past simple and present perfect. Look, that if you say that you lost your wallet, this is not affecting your present. This is not the case. You just lost your wallet. I lost my wallet many times in the past. I think last year I lost my documents at least once. I'm really good at losing things. But in this case, as it has no connection with my present, I don't need to use present perfect. But let's imagine that yesterday I lost my wallet and my documents and everything, and now I don't have anything with me. I don't have my documents, I don't have money, and I'm screwed. So the proper way of telling people what happened to me is that I've lost my wallet. Because you bring this to a realm, to a place in which there is connection between what happened and the present. Okay? That's the first usage. The second one is an action that started in the past and continues up to now. And this is something interesting because in Portuguese we use present simple for this. So let's say that this is my present, past, timeline, future. Let's say the following. I started teaching in 2009. I started teaching in 2009. Now it's 2021 and I have been a teacher. I have been a teacher since 2009. 2009. You see what happened here? I started being a teacher in 2009 and I continue being a teacher. Today I am a teacher and I intend to be a teacher. I intend to continue being a teacher in the future. So this is the perfect usage for present perfect. And you see that in Portuguese we say eu sou professor há ou desde 2009. But in English we cannot say I am a teacher since 2009. This is a very common mistake for students at your level now, but keep in mind that I am is only about the present as a routine. The present for I am is seen like this. We're talking about all the time, like I am a teacher. I am a teacher all the time. I don't stop being a teacher. But you see that the meaning is quite different. Here I want to talk about for how long I've been, and here I just want to say about a fact about my life. Okay, you see the difference? So in this case, I am a teacher now. You cannot say I am a teacher since 2009. This is wrong. Okay? I've been a teacher since 2009. So that's the second use of present perfect. Now let me present the third use of it. Don't mind this old piece of cloth, please. Let's say the third usage, or the third rule for using present perfect. An action that happened in the past, but the time isn't over. So you see, observe this. This is our present. And okay, first case. This is yesterday. Let's imagine this timeline as being yesterday. This is 23:59, so you can perfectly understand. In American English, we don't use this format of telling the hour, but I'm just going to use it as a form for you, as a way for you to understand better. And this is midnight, 01. So you see, this is yesterday, this is today. So as yesterday is over, right? Yesterday's finished. Now it's a new day, it's a new dawn. Yesterday's over. So to talk about yesterday, we use simple past. Like, I went downtown yesterday. I went downtown yesterday. Okay? Because it's complete. It's over. Or I drank a lot of coffee yesterday. Once again, we are using a finished idea of time. The time is completely over. But let's say the day started, we are here, and it's 9:30 a.m. and the day started at midnight 01. And you want to say that you drank a lot of coffee. But the day isn't over. So it's not quite common to say, I drank a lot of coffee today. Why is this not very common? Because today is still happening. You see, today started here and it's still happening, and it will be over only at 23:59. So this is still happening. This is still in progress. And that's why when this happens as present perfect is a combination of present and past, to use the present perfect instead of simple past. As today is not finished yet. It's not over. So a better way to say this is I have drunk a lot of coffee today. Okay? First, second, third rule. Yes, I think we're covered. We're done with rules for using. So observe that this is just about using present perfect. It's not about how to use. It's not about the structure. It's just about an explanation of in which situations to use it. Now, let's explore a little bit the structure system. As you may know, or maybe this is not new to you, but the present perfect is a complex verb tense, so we will have to use an explicit auxiliary. And by explicit, I mean that differently from what happens in basic verb tenses like simple present or simple past, in which we use do, does, did only in questions and negatives. The auxiliary verb that we use for present perfect also appears in the affirmative. So here we go. In the affirmative, we'll use a subject plus have. And have, in this case, is my auxiliary verb. And you, of course, know that have is a verb that changes drastically according to the subject, because for he, she, it, we use has. And after this, you use a verb, but this verb is on what we call third form. What is this third form, teacher? It's exactly past participle form. That's the name, past participle. And we use this structure several times in English. And by now, probably you've had to memorize some verbs, right? The past form of some verbs. And bad news is now you've got another list of verbs to memorize. Yay! So you see that some verbs like eat, they will have ate as the past, but they will have eaten as this third form. Go has went as the second form, which is the past, and has gone as the third. And this is something that you should memorize. If you want, there's a video on lesson 5, if I'm not mistaken, or lesson 6, in which I explain about past simple. I voice recorded myself reading some of the most important irregular verbs, because this happens with irregular verbs, you already know. The regular ones, for example, work, they have the ed form for the past and for the past participle as well. So that's not a problem. It's not quite hard to memorize. Okay, let me give you a sentence then. I have gone to Europe. Let's change this into he has gone to Europe. He has gone, because I've never been to Europe. It's a shame. He has gone to Europe. He has gone to Europe. You see, subject is he has because of he, for he, she to use has. Gone is a third form of my verb, and to Europe. What do I mean? One of the three things I explained to you. Something that happened in the past and it's affecting the present. Something that started in the past and continues to the present until the present. Or something that happened but in the past, but the time reference that we're using is still open. Okay? In this case, as we do not have more complement, we do not know what case is that, but it's one of them. So he has gone to Europe. Very well. The negative form. Now you've got the subject plus have not, and you already know, of course this is not big news for you, that we can contract not and attach it to the auxiliary that we are working with. So haven't or hasn't plus the verb in the third form. Okay? Guys, the verb is always in the third form for perfect tenses. You see later on that we don't only have present perfect, we also have past perfect and future perfect, and all verb tenses have a perfect aspect. Let's transform this into negative then. He hasn't gone to Europe. He hasn't gone to Europe. Guys, I really need to point this out because at this point, when you see haven't and hasn't, you stop using don't and doesn't, indeed and didn't when you really needed to. For example, look at this sentence. He hasn't gone. This is my verb. This is just my auxiliary. I mean, both of them are verbs, but this is the main verb. This is just the auxiliary verb. This is not so important. Okay? But in more simple verb tenses like present simple, when we say he has a dog, you see that here you will never contract this with nt. You cannot say he hasn't a dog. Why not? Because this is present simple. It's that thing about being always true or repeatedly true or a fact. He has a dog. The negative here is with doesn't. He doesn't have a dog. You remember this. So you only use haven't or hasn't if there is a verb next to it, attached to it, because that indicates that it's an auxiliary. Only auxiliary verbs receive nt to make the negative. Okay, that's not the case with have here. Have here is my verb, my important verb, like the verb go in here. Okay? Good. So affirmative, negative. Now we've got the question form. And everything I explained about the negative applies also in the question format, okay? Because here you will have to invert the order of the subject as you do with every auxiliary verb, as this is your auxiliary. And it will come before the subject, and right after the subject you will use the verb still in the third form. Alright? Like in this case, has he gone to Europe? Has he gone to Europe? Okay, this is a yes no question, so you know that we will have short answers. Yes, he has. No, he hasn't. Yes, he has. No, he hasn't. Teacher, can I say, has he a dog? Of course, you know that no, you can't. This is present simple, so the correct form is does he have a dog? Okay, don't confuse have being used as an auxiliary with have being used as a full verb. Okay, this is really important. Wow, present perfect. Isn't it perfect? Has many applications. Okay. Guys, now I will have to talk to you a little bit about some common expressions or some common words that we use along with the present perfect. Okay? And let me just take a look at them because I don't want to forget any of them because they are all important. Once again, I really need you to do homework. In this case, guys, it's a matter of really having to. It's not that all the other ones were not really important. They were, but this one is especially important because we're talking about a very special verb tense, which is present perfect. And you really need to know how to use this, or train the very least, because there are many verbs to memorize and there's no easy way of memorizing them. Okay? Can I hear an okay? Good. Thank you very much. Let's talk about some adverbs. You know that when we study a verb tense, we also study some particles that tag along, some particles that are quite frequently used in these verb tenses. For instance, when we study present simple, we learn about frequency adverbs because we need to talk about periodic events. So every day, always, hardly ever, things like this. These guys are adverbs. And if you want a formal definition of what an adverb is, it is a word that modifies a verb. That's the definition of an adverb. It's an adverb. Modifies a verb. Or sometimes an adjective. And sometimes an adverb itself. But this is an analysis we will look through later on, not now. Modifiers. Modifiers. Good. The first one is just. And we use just plus present perfect every time that we want to say that something happened very, very short ago. Something happened short ago. So, an action that happened short ago. Look at my timeline. Now it's 10, let's imagine, and you arrived at 9:50. It's 10, right now it's 10 o'clock, and you arrived at 9:50. So I can use just plus present perfect to say that você acabou de chegar. You've, or you have just arrived. Look at the position of just. It's always between the auxiliary verb and the main verb, the principal verb. I'm gonna call this verb and this auxiliary so you don't confuse them. Okay, it's always in the middle. And I forgot to say something. The same way that we can contract the negative form, we can also contract the affirmative. So in the affirmative, we will have apostrophe v like this and apostrophe s like this, which is sometimes hard to recognize because it's easily confused with verb to be. Remember, verb to be can also be contracted this way. So in this case, he's gone to Europe. Teacher, is there an easy way to find out if this apostrophe s is verb to be or have or has in this case? Yes, dear student, look at here. If you've got a verb in the third form, there chances are that this is a has, not is, not an is. Okay? So in this case, instead of saying you have, we could just say you've. You've just arrived. And that's use of just. Okay? The next combo of adverbs to learn are already, yet, and ever. Good. Let's get started with ever. We will use ever in questions. In questions. And this means já. But this já, it is aimed at extraordinary things. For example, have you ever eaten avocado? You know, that's a simple question I've made. Have you ever eaten? So have is before the subject, and we're using ever before the main verb. You see that this is a particularity of adverbs. They are generally placed before the main verb. Generally. Because we'll see that yet doesn't follow this rule. Okay? But have you ever eaten avocado? I'm asking, você já comeu abacate? I'm asking this as an extraordinary thing. Like, wow, have you ever eaten avocado? It's not if you have eaten avocado today. Okay? I could ask, have you ever traveled to Japan? Have you ever traveled to Japan? Okay? Você já viajou para o Japão as an extraordinary thing, as a new thing. Okay? And okay, that's the way we make questions. To answer this question, we can use either already or never. and they are opposites, they are contrary. Already is the contrary of never, never is the contrary of already. So you could say, no, I have never eaten avocado. Or no, I have never traveled to Japan. Again, never is before the main verb. And if you want to use an affirmative answer, a positive answer, yes, I have already eaten. Oh, let's change this. I have already traveled to Japan. Yes, I have already traveled to Japan. Again, already is being used before the main verb. I have never eaten avocado. I have already traveled to Japan. So we are saying já. Já em perguntas, in questions. Já em afirmativas, nunca, which is the opposite of já. But then you can ask me, teacher, what about yet? Yet is really fun. It's a very, very fun adverb to work with. And you see why. Remember how I told you that yet, or that ever, is used in questions for extra things. Alright, so yet is used in questions as já, but for daily actions, ordinary events. So let's think of eating avocado. So in this case, I'm asking and I'm surprised, have you ever eaten avocado? And you can say, yes, I have already eaten avocado, or no, I have never eaten avocado. But let's imagine I know something about you. So you eat an avocado every day. I know this about you. You eat an avocado every day, and generally you do this at about 10 o'clock in the morning. And one day I get to your house and it's 10:15, and I want to know, você já comeu seu abacate? So you see that this is já, but for something that happens every day. It's an ordinary event. And this is já for making a question about something extraordinary, something new, a new event. And the question should be, have you eaten avocado yet? Yet is a little different. You see, it doesn't follow this rule. For yet, the right position is at the end of the sentence. At the end of the sentence. Okay? Have you eaten avocado yet? But it's also really interesting because the same word, yet, can also have a different meaning. In negatives with haven't and hasn't, it means ainda. That's what we've got in Portuguese. Ainda. So, have you eaten your avocado yet? Sim, já comi. Yes. I've, how do you say já? Already. Yes. I've already eaten my avocado. So you see that in the answer, already works well for both extraordinary and ordinary, for new and for common actions. We don't have a problem with already. Our problem is with ever. We only use ever for extraordinary events. For ordinary events, we use yet, and the position of it is at the end of the sentence. But you could say, in this case, no, I haven't. You see that this is negative. Eaten avocado yet. And now, again, yet is at the end of the sentence. But in this case, it doesn't mean já. Of course, eu ainda não comi meu abacate. Okay? Yes. And teacher, what if I want to say ainda, but for extraordinary things? Like, I have already traveled to Japan. Okay, but what if I want to say eu ainda não viajei para o Japão? In this case, you don't use yet. I mean, you can use if you want, but there's a better way of saying this, which is still. Still means ainda for extraordinary events. So, no, in this case of, have you ever traveled to Japan? No, I still haven't traveled to Japan. And look at the position of still. Now, still is before the auxiliary. Before the auxiliary. So, you can have still to say ainda for extraordinary events, and you use it before the auxiliary. We have yet in negatives, meaning ainda for ordinary things. We have yet in questions, meaning já for ordinary things. We've got ever in questions to ask já for extraordinary things. And we've got already saying já in affirmative sentences for both extraordinary and ordinary things in the present. Yes? Very well. Wow, this was a very dense class. I think this is all you need to know about present perfect for now. We will focus on present perfect for some other classes because I want to point out some differences that will be really important for you when using this verb tense. Okay? Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to do your lesson, to do the activities on Unit 7, Intermediate Grammar News. And as soon as you're done, check out, there's another video with the answers. Okay, I will comment a little bit on the book. Okay, bye for now.